What's to be said about Dexter? It burst on the scene in 2006 with a pretty catchy premise that led to a lot of dark fun. It was basically instantly popular, and depending on who you talk to, it was really good to great for 2 or maybe even 4 seasons. It went on for a lot longer than that though, and the 8th and final season is considered awful by just about everyone who's seen it. That's why it's a little surprising that it's coming back for a 9th season 8 years later, and this video is going to explore everything there is to know about that. We got some teasers, a release date, cast announcements, and a Comic-Con panel with some details and hints for what to expect. To talk about that, there's going to be some spoilers about the first 8 seasons, and this is your chance to leave if you don't want to know how that ended. In the sneak peek trailer that Showtime released at the end of their Comic-Con at Home panel, we learned that the premiere date of Dexter New Blood is November 7th, 2021. No big surprise, Michael C. Hall is coming back as the main character. Couldn't really have Dexter without that. But most of the original cast that are still alive that were related to Miami won't be returning according to the casting announcements that are out there. The big news on that front was that Jennifer Carpenter, who played Dex's sister Debra, will be returning. You might think, hey, wait, she's dead. And that's true. She was actually the last person to die and Dexter's last kill in the series, considering that he cut her life support. But you can follow that thought up with one about how Dexter always interacted with dead characters in the original run. Most notably his adoptive father Harry, the guy who gave him his code. Also, his brother Brian Moser, aka the Ice Truck Killer, made a return in Season 6 long after he was killed at the end of Season 1. The best guess then is that Deb will come back in a similar way, and that seems like a good thing. The 2 siblings have sort of opposite personalities, and I think Dex talking with Deb would be preferable to Harry at this point in the story. The other returning character they've announced is another dead one, the Trinity Killer. It sounds like John Lithgow will step into the role once again for a very brief appearance though. According to reports, he was only on set for an afternoon. His return raised some hardcore fans' eyebrows based on an alternate ending that's out there. The show's original showrunner Clyde Phillips, who's returning for the new season, left after season 4. As the show was coming to its end, he shared how he would have ended the series if he'd stayed. Basically, his plan was to have the final scene be Dexter waking up on the executioner's table in a Florida penitentiary. The events of the 8 seasons would have been him remembering them as his life was flashing in front of his eyes and he was about to die. The idea was that when you saw the gallery, you would see all the people he had killed or had died because of his actions watching his execution, and when he told the story, he mentioned the Trinity Killer would be there. Considering this story was widely circulated and talked about back then, it doesn't seem likely that he's still going to deliver this as the new ending, but in the Comic-Con panel, he did promise that the ending they're moving towards in New Blood would blow up the internet. Last year, when Dexter's return was announced, there was a fair amount of talk about whether they would just undo what happened in Season 8, basically pretend it didn't happen. We know now that won't be the case. Based on what we've seen and what they've said, the story will pick up 8 years after we first met the bearded lumberjack version of Dex. Just to briefly recap how the show ended, Dexter was planning to leave to start a new life in Argentina with his serial killer girlfriend Hannah and his son Harrison. That didn't work out because she was being pursued by Deb's boss from the private detective agency who's trying to collect her bounty. Deb had been shot by Season 8's serial killer antagonist, and though it looked like she might pull through when they took her to the hospital, she ended up having a stroke after surgery that left her brain dead. Dexter was able to get revenge on her killer while he was in custody, setting it up to look like self-defense. With a hurricane coming, the hospital's moving patients around to get ready. Dexter slips in and disconnects the machines that are keeping his sister alive. He then leaves the hospital in his boat, leaving her body at the bottom of the ocean, makes a call to Hannah and learns that she's boarding the flight to Argentina and that her and Harrison are going to make it out. And then he steers the slice of life directly into the storm. The wreckage is found and he's presumed to be dead. Hannah has made it to Argentina and she reads about his death online. There is a twist though. He actually faked his death and is living in Oregon under an assumed identity, apparently working as a lumberjack. That's where things were left. As mentioned, the finale wasn't something fans or critics liked, but it did provide an ending. Fast forward 8 years, and now Dexter is living in the fictional town of Iron Lake, New York, living under the alias Jim Lindsay, which is a nod to the author of the book series that the show's based on. He's working in a sporting goods store. He's in a relationship with a new girlfriend who also happens to be a police officer. And from what we see in the trailer, it seems like he's trying to keep his dark passenger at bay. There are some contradictions if you really think about it though. He's in a small town, which could be an effort to keep the possible options to a low. It would be hard for him to act out there according to Harry's code. At the same time, he's staying close to the local police. That gives him access to information, and he has access to hunting gear through his work, which includes a lot of knives. The sneak peek trailer shows him in what looks like a therapy session. When asked how he's doing, he replies that it's been a whirlwind. We hear him say that he's always had his demons, so he went away, and he's standing outside a log cabin home in outdoor gear. Around town, the locals all seem to know him by name, and everyone seems to be friendly. There's a shot of him with his girlfriend where she's looking at him lovingly, and from the Comic-Con panel we know that this is a serious relationship and that they've been together for a while. There's shots of him at work doing his job. Perhaps that's not entirely satisfying. And we also see him in several shots sharpening his blades, looking at knives, looking at a straight razor that he's carrying in his hand. Looks like he might be going after someone. And we hear him say that sometimes he has an urge too strong to ignore. There's also a bit of action. We see what looks like a car chase, an unknown female character running, looking like someone's after her, and Dexter himself running where it looks like he might have been in a physical struggle based on some marks on his face. There's blood on the snow which he covers up, and a tactical team breaking down someone's door. On the surface, he's got a normal life and appears to be fitting in. The question isn't really if he'll kill though. In an earlier teaser, we got a look at a reflection in a window that he was looking out where you can clearly see someone wrapped in plastic wrap on a kill table behind him. The question is, has he been keeping his urges under control enough to keep up the facade? Or if he really was trying not to kill at all while he's in this small town, what is the situation that's going to get him going again? It's possible that this masked character we see with a rifle might be the most likely suspect. As far as new characters, we do see a shot of Clancy Brown standing next to Dexter, and there's some crime scene tape up in front of them, so they're looking at some kind of crime. Brown, who I always think of as Viking from the movie Bad Boys, is playing a character named Kurt Caldwell, which they say is a villain. The official description says Caldwell was born and raised in the town of Iron Lake. In fact, some consider him the unofficial mayor of their small town. He's realized the American dream by going from driving big rigs, just like his father did, to now owning several trucks and the local truck stop. Powerful, generous, loved by everyone. He's a true man of the people. If he's got your back, consider yourself blessed. But should you cross Kurt or hurt anyone that he cares for, God help you. Considering they're billing him as a villain, Dexter might find himself on Kurt's wrong side. Or I suppose it's possible that he's the killer Dex will be hunting. I mentioned his girlfriend, who's played by Julia Jones. She was in one of my favorite episodes of Westworld. And the bottom line is that he's going to be surrounded by a whole new cast of characters. There really aren't that many Miami characters still alive, and since he's in self-imposed exile, it wouldn't be great for him if any of them found out he was still alive. For what it's worth, most of the actors have said they weren't going to be involved in the reboot, but I suppose you can't rule out a cameo if something happens, like he dies at the end, and we see them learning about it or something along those lines. One of the more interesting new characters is played by Jamie Chung, who recently appeared in Lovecraft Country. She's playing Molly, who is a famous true crime podcaster. Could she be in Iron Lake following leads related to the Bay Harbor Butcher? As far as loose ends in the final season, there really aren't many. Harrison is still alive, and that should matter to Dexter, but he was okay with leaving him with Hannah as things were left. The actress that played her has said in interviews that she's not returning for season 9, but there was a short teaser where Dexter throws a picture of him and his son into a campfire. In voiceover, we heard a clip from season 4 saying, "Want to know a secret? Daddy kills people." That feels like it opens the door for a Harrison reunion, and at least the fan site Dexter Daily is reporting that Harrison is confirmed to be returning, and the actor who's playing him is a teenager. So there's a lot of potential for Dexter's new life in this sleepy little town to get turned on its head. When season 9 was announced last year, a popular take was that no one wanted more Dexter after that awful final season. As I mentioned, people were actively wondering if they would retcon the ending based on the negative reaction. Of course, that's not the case. Obviously, there's a lot of people that love this show, especially love this character. But those takes weirdly are what got me interested in the reboot. Not that I wanted to see a retcon. If I'm being honest, I think I stopped following the show sometime in season 6. Because of the hype, I did catch up by the time the ending aired though, and just was really kind of underwhelmed. But I wasn't invested enough at that point to be actually affected. What catches my interest now is what do you do after that? The original showrunner is back, and many die-hard fans believe that his leaving is what caused the show to go downhill, and I do think there's something to that. But really, for me, the problem that Dexter had even before that was that it fell into this pattern where the tension came from whether or not he would get caught. Each season, they would ratchet that tension up only for him to get out of the situation and then start the whole cycle over again in the next installment. You can only do that for so long until it starts to not work, till the tension diminishes. So now here we are with the chance for them to make a real ending for the character, and he is a good one. I did a rewatch of the first 4 seasons recently, and that's what really holds up. The premise of the main character and the performance of Michael C. Hall. While I may not have wanted a new season of Dexter, I find myself kind of excited to watch it again. Partly out of nostalgia, and partly to see what they can do for a show that has occupied every worst ending list that's been published since 2013. To his credit, Clyde Phillips is motivated by that. He knows what people think about how the series went. He had his own ideas about it, and he said that they weren't undoing anything that happened. They're coming at it thinking they can make something that can improve what didn't work in the past, something that can be a proper ending for the series. And I think that's a good place to leave things. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.